We continue then, of course, to talk about and continue with the coverage, of course, of looting. Let's start off in Durban. And, of course, we've just heard from the Premier, Sihle Zikalala. Let's go to Durban CBD, where our SABC News reporter, Ayanda Mhlongo, now joins us live. A very good afternoon to you, Ayanda. We're just listening, of course, to the Premier of KZN. In fact, warning about the fact that the province should stop itself from descending into the province's violent past that is very well documented. I mean, the fact that he's giving this sort of warning, does it seem as though this is where it's going? If we look at some of the images that we've seen, whether it is online or on television, it does seem as though really the violence is kind of heading in that direction. Talk to us really about what's happening.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you, Flo, and good afternoon to our viewers at home. Certainly, Flo, the situation in KwaZulu-Natal, I think to say it's volatile would be an understatement. The situation is really indescribable. What has been the scenes that we are seeing across the province of KwaZulu-Natal, the looting, the damage to property, industries on fire. But more than that now is what we are seeing down in the communities, Flo, and I think this speaks to what the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal was speaking about with the violence amongst the citizens of this province. And what we're seeing from today, in fact from last night, is that there's been these messages that have been going around saying that once the looters are done in the malls and the shops that they have been targeting, they're now going to be moving into residential areas and across suburbs and some of the townships in Durban that have not yet been largely affected by the looting. We now see residents are taking up arms. We're now seeing, Flo, in some of the affluent suburbs towards the north of Durban, we're seeing placards and post signage rather. They're saying residents only. Residents have now formed blockading roads into their communities. They are heavily armed. But what is even worse, we're now seeing some residents even saying that certain areas are no-go area to certain races. And I think that's going to be a bit of a problem which the government is now going to be faced with, that this is turning into a racial issue when if you are black, you're not going to be able to get access into, for example, a white neighborhood. This is what we're seeing. And in fact, Flo, this morning when myself and my colleague Ray Mbele, when we were traveling to Phoenix, this is what we encountered as well. Guns being pulled at us in our face, and people asking who we are and what we're doing in this area, and saying that they don't want black people in this particular area, and us having to say no, we are members of the media. And so that is a situation that we are now seeing that is taking place in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which is really concerning. And I think this is what the Premier of the province was speaking about when he was saying that this situation now, especially on the ground, is becoming one that is out of control, and there's now possibly we could now possibly see violence now between citizens on the ground due to this unfortunate situation, Flo.
And I actually want to stay on that, Ayanda. When it comes to whether it is police visibility, authorities that are present in those areas that are predominantly, whether it is Indian or white areas, are you seeing much of that? I mean, it really does frighten me, the fact that you had guns pulled and drawn to you while you were trying to in fact cover these stories in areas that were not black areas, if one can put it that way. Is there no police visibility in those particular areas? I mean, we're hearing that the SNDF soldiers will be deployed, and as we can see so far, we're seeing that those soldiers are being deployed in certain areas, and one wonders if they are indeed going to be stationed at areas where, as you say, we could end up seeing race relations and issues in that regard.
Yeah, Flo, undoubtedly police are stretched. I mean, we were seeing as we were moving around the different areas across the CBD that the police are indeed stretched. And a lot of people that we've been speaking to in all the community areas saying that the police have just not been there to assist them, and that as a result now, they want to now stand up and protect their own homes, their properties. One could say it's understandable if you see the situation as it's unfolding. People are concerned about their properties. People are concerned about shops. As it is, the situation that we're now faced with, the Flo, in fact, where I am now, is one of the few, in fact, it's possibly the only one store that is open here in one of the suburbs here in the Durban CBD. Scores of people have gathered at the store. It closed a couple of hours ago, we are told, but people are still begging their store managers to be able to go inside. The situation now flows moving as well from the looting. Yes, there is still looting in certain areas that is continuing, but the other developing situation now that is more critical is the shortage flow of food. People are now scrambling for the necessities. Stores have run out of milk, they've run out of simple things like bread, and as you see here, unfortunately, people being turned away, can see the desperation as they're moving away, really disappointed and worried about the situation. Flo, the other point is petrol. Garages, service stations across Durban, many of them are closed, and the few that are opened that we visited earlier on had run out of petrol, and others said that they were only counting a few cars and they would run out of diesel. So that is the other critical situation. Speaking on security, I think this is the first time that we've been here that we've actually even seen an armoured vehicle of the Durban Metro Police. We have not seen members of the SANDF throughout the day. I'm not saying, Flo, that they're not in Durban. They possibly are at strategic areas, but where we've been moving around and in the communities that we've been speaking to, the SANDF has not been visible. Flo?
Many thanks, as always, to you, Ayanda Mhlongo. Please stay safe there where you are. Ayanda's talking to us from Durban CBD, where looting is indeed continuing, and protests do indeed continue at this time. And of course, the issue now, the big issue that's coming to the fore, really, is the issue of, whether there are race issues involved in the mix in all of this that is now happening, and if it's descending to that level of chaos and violence that the Premier Sihlezi Galala spoke about, the province's violent past, warning indeed about that. So many thanks to Ayanda. We'll certainly catch up with her at a later stage. All right, well, several shops and shopping centres were set alight during the violent protests and looting sprees in the past few days in KwaZulu-Natal. One shopping centre targeted was Durban's Springfield Park, a popular shopping centre in the industrial area of the city.